Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. I almost said good morning again. Did that a few weeks ago. But this is I'm Jim. This is Jim. I don't know. Joined as always by Tom. Tom, how you doing this morning?
Great, Jim. Good to be with you. This is a great week for me. We're coming on the heels of Monday Night Football and the mighty Detroit Lions continuing to be kings of the jungle.
Yeah, and I mean, that division seemed like it was the Lions to win regardless. The Vikings were kind of sort of hanging around a little bit, and yeah, now I don't think the Vikings are going to hang around much anymore. I mean, Josh Dobbs is a reasonable pickup for them, but losing Kirk Cousins kind of took away any hope I think that team had of making a real run, which I don't think they were going to anyways. And the Packers and the Bears are just both disasters in that division. So congrats to your NFC North champion Detroit Lions before they ever clinch it.
But the Bears were buyers at the trade deadline, so go figure.
Yeah. If they can re-sign him, which I assumed
when that's the plan. Yeah.
Right. Which I assumed when they traded it to, they already had that in the bag, but now it's come out that they don't. If you traded a second round pick and he walks, what are we doing?
That's going to be a high second round pick too.
It is. Like, I mean, if you traded it and re-signed him for 5 years, 4 years, like, okay, I'm good with it. Montez Sweat being our second round pick next year, I can definitely live with that. But yeah, get the extension done, Ryan. What are we doing? So a little worried on that trade. Lions picking up Donovan Peoples-Jones, which, I guess means they don't trust Jameson Williams. I don't know. Is that what it means? I don't know.
No, it's depth at wide receiver. So Marvin Jones actually has stepped away, Marvin Jones Jr. So I think that just gives a little bit more depth in the wide receiver room. And DPJ, former Michigan Wolverine, go blue, I think has never not reached his college potential in the pros, but he's been growing. So I think him being in Detroit, and again, I think Detroit's a spot where they're going to squeeze every bit of juice out of every lemon or lime or whatever juice-bearing fruit you can grab. Because calling him a lemon or making the association that he's a lemon is not the right idea. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm excited. A 6th round pick for wide receiver depth. However that looks, will be great.
Yeah, and speedy dude. So I thought it was a nice pickup for the Lions. Nothing wrong with that one. And like you said, when you're trading a 6th round, unlike my Bears, you traded a 2nd round. 6th round and worst case, it doesn't totally work out and you give up a 6th round pick. Best case, you traded a 6th round pick and got a usable piece. So that's not bad in the NFL. Meanwhile, my Bears. Anyways, that could be a whole podcast on my Bears. It could be a whole series of podcasts. In fact, I'm sure there are ones. But today we're going to talk WWE and we're going to talk Crown Jewel. Although quickly, Tom, before we get to Crown Jewel, have you seen Dynamite? I don't think you said you were going to probably see it.
I actually did see Dynamite, yes.
Oh, okay. How excited are you for the return of Paul White?
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. And good thing there was a major announcement this week. Tony's got to stop with the major announcement. That was not a major announcement. That's put it on Twitter. Tickets go on sale on Friday. Yay.
I mean, yeah, I don't understand. Like, and the irony of the announcement is, what a great gift to give them tickets to next year's event in Wembley. Buy them now, 9 months in advance. No, Tony, not everybody thinks that way. So,
yeah, I haven't seen the show yet, but I've read enough about it, and I certainly had seen what the announcement was, and I was just like, yeah, there we go. If we hadn't jumped the shark on the announcement thing before, and we probably had, done been jumped now. I mean, it's what in the world, Tony?
My favorite thing in the world of pro wrestling in the last 48 hours is a tweet I saw after Ric Flair signed with AEW for 2 years, which apparently is being funded by his energy drink more so than anything else. So it's not necessarily coming out of AEW's pocket. But you think
like the Slim Jim Randy Savage deal.
Sure. Tony Khan's probably still on the hook for some money. So a tweet I saw yesterday was, AEW is such a love letter to early 2000s Ring of Honor that Tony Khan is letting Ric Flair fleece him out of money. Which, granted, that with Ric Flair was like 2009, but nonetheless. And again, shame on Ric Flair. Shame on his business practice. Like Kerry Silkin got bilked out of thousands of dollars, and that man deserves restitution.
Absolutely, he does. Absolutely, he does. Wouldn't it have been cool if that was part of the, and he probably wouldn't have signed it, but if that was part of the deal with AEW was that he had to pay back Kerry Silkin. But yeah, that would have been a really nice gesture. But
yeah,
also, to be fair, not Tony Khan's problem, but alas. But we are talking WWE today. We're making our picks for Crown Jewel, the Saudi Arabia show. Saturday at noon Eastern is the main card start, but it'd be 11 Eastern, I guess, would be the kickoff show, which actually has a match for the first time in months. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we get to those picks,
I think you have the time a little bit earlier. I think 1 o'clock is the main start. I think noon is the kickoff.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. That might help me a little bit. We'll see. And we'll talk about whether we're going to watch the show or not as we go along. But the head-to-head update, if you remember from a couple of weeks ago from Fastlane, Tom waxed me clean my clock. I've used a lot of different analogies, but it wasn't good. And took over the lead. Tom is at 49-20, and I am at 48-21. So a 1-match lead for Tom going into Crown Jewel. We've got 8 matches to pick here at Crown Jewel. So we'll see how that all shakes out. We've already talked before we clicked record, and we know we match on 1 match, which doesn't shock me at all that we do. But and I know there's a few others. I'm sure we will. But I think there's a couple here that could be interesting. We'll see if we end up matching on the picks or not. Tom, are you planning on watching Crown Jewel?
No, not live. I'd like to watch it. Where and how that happens over the weekend, we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat. We're putting up our Christmas lights, not to start turning them on yet, but because it's actually going to be in the 60s this weekend here, and so why not do it then rather than when it's cold and blowing snow in your face? And I have a sneaky hunch that's going to be happening, midday Saturday. So I don't foresee seeing it live. I'm hoping to watch it. It looks like a good card, so I'm hoping to watch it at some point, but we'll see how that pans out. I'll be watching my Bears on Sunday, so as much as that will pain me. All right, so Crown Jewel, 8 matches. Since I got absolutely waxed last round, I think that means I pick first. Is that right, Tom?
Yes.
We've been doing this for 3 years, and I can never remember exactly how we figured this out. So the first match on our show or on our picks today is the kickoff match that I mentioned. And they haven't, like I said, they haven't done a kickoff match on a WWE premium live event. I think they've done them on some NXT ones. But on a WWE premium live event, I would have to go back and really look. It's been a while. So interesting to see that they're bringing that back. I don't know if that'll be a permanent return or if it's just here for Crown Jewel. But Sami Zayn is going to take on JD McDonough in the kickoff match. This, has been part of the Sammy, Cody, Jay et al. Against the Judgment Day storyline and Judgment Day and JD McDonough, since he's not officially a part of the Judgment Day yet. This will help continue the build towards what, we expect to be the War Games match at Survivor Series. But kickoff match, usually the babyface goes over, and I don't see any way, unless it's shenanigans, JD McDonough wins, and I don't think you do that on the kickoff. So pretty easily here, I'm going to go with Sami Zayn.
Yeah, it's interesting. So every time I think of Saudi Arabia shows, and then I'm like, Sami Zayn's on the show, or Kevin Owens is on the show. Like, they were very much against it years ago, and maybe they are still against it, but something happened. And again, I don't know, and nor do I care. It's their prerogative where they want to, and how their employer tells them, employer as independent contractors. I was thinking about Sami Zayn quite a bit, just in the recent use of him. Because he's to that point where I think he's Teflon, so he could actually lose here and it doesn't hurt him. He's been losing actually quite a bit, and it hasn't hurt him. So I was thinking, okay, this is a great spot for McDonough, but McDonough isn't established yet. So I agree with you. I think Sami Zayn does get everybody excited, and again, it's formulaic. Get those shows started with everybody feeling good. And how do you do that? You have the babyface go over. So Sami Zayn's my pick as well.
We move into the main card, and Cody Rhodes taking on Damian Priest in one of those matches that I'm like, wow, I kind of want to see that. What are you thinking, Tom, about Cody and Damian?
Yeah, so it's Cody Rhodes all the way here. Like Cody Rhodes is a guy where, like, unless he's part of a tag match and the team loses, but he doesn't get pinned, or maybe something happens where it's like outside interference where he gets the loss, he doesn't take losses, and he shouldn't be taking losses at all. And I love the idea that, you know, this is like also kind of formulaic in my opinion, where you've got the briefcase holder, so Senior Money in the Bank, Damian Priest, can lose all of these matches, and then eventually he's going to cash in and be the world champion, and he's going to have all these people who've already defeated him, then they're have to make claim for a title shot, and then that's when Damian Priest gets his wins over them, since he gave them wins on the way up. So yeah, Cody all the way.
Yeah, I'm with Cody on this one too, and for a lot of the same reasons you said. I still think Cody is probably the challenger at WrestleMania for Roman. And so you're going to keep him strong. And they've kept Cody strong, like you said, pretty much since he's come back. I can't say that Cody has been booked weekly at any point. And Cody's kind of like Sammy, though, too, in what you were saying before. And that Cody could take this loss, and it's not going to hurt Cody Rhodes. And Damian Priest has been built strong enough that would be fine. But yeah, I don't see in Saudi Arabia Cody losing to Damian Priest. Maybe on a Raw, I could see him take a pin, only like either a fluky thing or hit him with the Money in the Bank or someone interferes. But yeah, I think Cody wins. I'm curious, though, and we'll talk about this perhaps a little bit later, if this is the last time we see Damian Priest on Saturday. Curious. Cody gets the win, though, in the match. We move on then to John Cena and Solo Sikoa. I get to pick first on this. This is one where I'm kind of throwing a dart a little bit. Like, if I'm booking the show, Solo's going over, because Solo is the guy you're clearly continuing to build. Cena is here for a little while. Kind of seems like this might be the end for Cena on this run, although you don't know because the strike isn't over yet. So, and that's why he's been more available to them. And yet it's Saudi Arabia, and it feels like sometimes in Saudi Arabia, the bigger stars always go over. And so Cena could get the win too. Like, I really can go back and forth on this one quite a bit. And I haven't even made my pick. You can tell from my hemming and hawing. Yes.
No, go ahead.
I came into this wanting to pick Solo, and partially because I want the 2 points in our fantasy wrestling league. But I'm going to go John Cena and not be happy about it. Partially, too, because if I remember right, I haven't seen Raw in so long. I've been reading it. I read the results every week, so I'm up on the storylines. But I think they left Cena laying this week, or maybe that was last week. And there's the old wrestling formulaic of whoever gets laid out the go-home show, gets the win at the pay-per-view. I don't know if that's really been as true in the years past here now, but I'm going to go Cena, and pray to God you are too.
Yeah. So again, when you think of business-wise, right? Like if you want to like create stars of the future, Solo Sikoa winning here is the thing that makes sense to me. Just because that's the case, but that's, I think maybe that's an old wrestling mindset as well. I'm with you that it's, when you go to Saudi Arabia, it's the All-Stars come out and the All-Stars get the wins. I was almost going to make an analogy between Bill Goldberg and John Cena, but then I was like, that tastes like vomit in my mouth, so I don't want to do that. So I won't. But I'm saying that because, they're polar opposites, Bill Goldberg and John Cena, without question. But John Cena is at that point in his career where he is definitely like the novelty. And one of his stories here, I think of him, again, I haven't watched any SmackDown, so like I'm completely in the dark on SmackDown stuff. He's commented, and I think it's been in a lot of video packages where like it's been over 2,000 days since he's had a singles victory. Well, then that writes itself here. John Cena gets the singles victory and gets that monkey off his back. Monkey, 2-spot monkeys. So John Cena.
And I wouldn't be shocked if like Jey Uso shows up to like distract Solo or something to lead to it, or there's some sort of. I mean, it's a bloodline match, so somebody's running in or doing something, right? I mean, can't have a totally clean bloodline match. Come on. So Tom, then you get the first pick on the women's title match between Io Sky and Bianca Belair, who they did. I don't know if you saw yesterday, Tom. The Montez Ford Bianca Belair reality show got a debut date, February 2nd on Hulu. So anybody who's looking forward to seeing that, Montez and Bianca will be on Hulu in February.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw something somewhere, Instagram or Twitter, but yeah, or X. But yeah, so that's cool. That'll be a fun show. I think they're great personalities, and I think their story, if they don't overscript it, right, which is par for the course with WWE reality shows, it has a chance to be really, really good and actually can create more authentic vibes for each of these individuals. Man, so again, like I just said, I don't watch SmackDown. I haven't watched anything related to SmackDown outside of video packages in so long. So I have no idea what's happening in this scene. I know Damage Control is still a thing. It seems like there's a lot going on. This would make a lot of sense for Bianca to regain the title here. I don't know. I'm going to throw a dart. I'm going to say Bianca for another feel good and for like to enhance the women's title as the women's world title, even though the other title is called the women's world title. This one, yeah,
that was super confusing. The women's title and the women's world title. At least with the men's, you got the universal and the world. But so Bianca is your pick.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we're going to have our first difference here. And I'm not super confident in this pick, but I'm going with Io because there's a lot of rumblings around Kairi Sane and her return to WWE. I don't know if that would happen here, but it seems to me like Kairi Sane facing off with her former tag partner would make a lot of sense. I don't know that you necessarily have to have the title involved in that, but it would establish Kairi immediately as a top competitor again in WWE, which would be fun and cool. And Kairi is awesome. So I'm excited that it sounds like she's coming back. And I think this would make some sense if she's available and around and, they can, I don't know, sneak her in. It's hard when you're, surprises are hard in Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, that's a major travel thing. And, it's not like you can sneak them in as easily as you can maybe at a show in the States. But I'm going to go Io. And again, I think this is going to be really great. I mean, two top-notch women competitors here. I think it'll easily be the better of the two women's matches on the card, even though I don't think the next one that we're about to talk about will be bad. I just think this one-on-ones generally are better laid out than multi-person scramble type matches, excuse me. So I'm going to go Io and pray that I didn't just dig my hole deeper. So women's world title match. Rhea Ripley defends against Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark. So the bad part is I forgot Zoe Stark was in this match. I don't know if that's good or bad. But as I was putting this together, I was like, who is the fifth person? By the way, I have to ask, Tom, you still have your foster dog with you?
Yes.
And is said foster dog sawing logs there next to you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I thought I heard something, and I'm like, I think the dog's back. That's awesome. Love it. So Rhea defends against four competitors here. Rhea Ripley wins this match. I mean, it'll be fine. It'll be good. I'm not a big Nia Jax person. I like Zoe Stark. I just wish they'd do more with her and keep her build going. And I don't feel like necessarily they've done a great job of that lately. Again, I haven't watched Raw as much, so maybe it actually is going better than it seems like it's coming across in what I've read. I'm a big Raquel Rodriguez and Shayna Baszler fan. I like both of those competitors a lot. So I hope they both look really strong, but I just don't see anybody on here. I mean, if they take the belt off of Rhea at this point and put it on Nia Jax, I might throw my remote at my TV. So don't do that. And I just don't think they've built up Raquel, Shayna, or Zoe enough yet to where you'd want to end Rhea's reign, because I think Rhea's reign has been really, really good, and I don't see any reason to stop that. So Rhea.
Rhea's my pick too. The one thing that you could easily do here is have the title change without Rhea being pinned, which you and I both are very against. But if you ever wanted to build her even more sympathetic, which I know she's a bad guy and she's the leader of the Judgment Day, you could easily do something where you get the belt off of her and Judgment Day comes out 0-3, maybe, and someone else is the champion. Again, bringing Nia Jax back and having her be the monster she's been could make sense. I'm not in favor of that. Again, I think Raquel is a great opportunity to have a future title run. I think the one thing about the women's division, and you talked about it with Io Sky, and you talked about it with Kairi Sane, and then we've got Jade Cargill in the background too. There's a lot of players. And only so many spots. So it's very interesting. But yeah, Rhea will be my pick as well.
All right, Tom, you get the first pick on the match that we had already joked about, kind of knowing what we were doing here. But the U.S. title match, Rey Mysterio defends against Logan Paul.
Yeah, big match. Logan comes to play again. Logan is the antithesis of John Cena when it comes to Saudi Arabia because John Cena has the history. Logan Paul is the novelty act, but he comes out and he actually is, he's a great part of WWE in my opinion. And this, I think, gives him even more reason to be more solidified because he's going to win the United States Championship from Rey Mysterio. And I hope that means he's around for a lot more and a lot longer. I hope that this isn't just like he has the championship and then he's out parading it. I want him to be a steady, stable part. He's got so many irons in the fire with boxing, with Prime Energy drink and Prime hydration drink and all the other stuff that's going on. He's clearly money though. And so like WWE would be wise to lock him in for more and maybe putting a championship on him helps get there. We know that that's not always true because you've got Roman Reigns, who's again been an amazing champion, and he is not there at all every single week, or every 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes.
Yeah, that's my only fear with Logan Paul winning the title here is that it takes the U.S. title potentially, like not on Raw regularly, but I don't feel like Rey Mysterio has been defending it that often either. So is it Raw? Or SmackDown?
SmackDown.
It's SmackDown. As I said that, I was like, that doesn't feel right.
Well, I think you said Raw earlier with John Cena being laid out now, and I didn't want to correct you. I was like, no, because Solo's on SmackDown, but it's all good.
Because that much I haven't seen lately, right? You're
so invested in watching the product. I'm with you.
Right. I do pay attention. It all blends together what show it happens on because I haven't seen it. If I've seen it, at least the image in my head would help tell me Raw or SmackDown just because of the red or the blue or whatever. But yeah, I'm making excuses now. Logan Paul, I see him winning, but the one fear I have is, so on SmackDown, yes, thank you. That makes more sense that it was the fear in my head. You would have Roman Reigns not around as often with the world title because the last I read, Roman isn't even expected to work Survivor Series. And then you potentially could have Logan Paul in your U.S. title also not around. Like, that's a lot of titles not around. So I'm with you. If Logan is winning this match, and I think he is, I hope at least short term he's around for a little while. Or maybe it's not a super long reign. I don't know that Logan Paul needs a 6 or 8 month reign as the U.S. champion. It could be a shorter reign. You're doing it for the media blitz anyways for him winning the title. So once you have that, I think the story's more about him winning it than keeping it. So you could have him drop it in some sort of a shenanigan way. I'd love to see him drop it back to Ricochet because it seems like there's still some animosity there. And that would help elevate Ricochet. But we'll see how that all plays itself out. But I think on Saturday, I think Logan Paul's walking out the U.S. champion. And that's what I got to say about that. We're kind of flying through these picks, so we might have a little time here at the end for some other random freestyling. But World Heavyweight title match, Seth Rollins defends against Drew McIntyre. So this is a match that is a little interesting to me as far as who might win it. I think it'll be a really good match. I mean, you have Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. That's not going to suck, right? I mean, Drew, they're kind of playing the story of, Drew had his biggest moment in front of nobody. One thing I read said, he had it in the Thunderdome era, and I was like, no, that was before the Thunderdome. There was literally nobody in that arena. He won it at the worst attended WrestleMania of all time. Haha. So, that they're playing that up. So obviously when you get Saudi Arabia in front of the crowd there and all of that would be something. I feel like Seth's going to win the match, and this is going to complete the full Drew McIntyre heel turn. Maybe Drew, takes him out or, destroys him afterwards, kind of thing. The question to me is, does that then lead to more Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins for the world title? Maybe at Survivor Series or something like that. Or does Damian Priest come out, cash in, and win the title? Which I think is at least a possibility. We're not picking that. That isn't one of our head-to-head picks that we make. But I just kind of wanted to name it. It's been in the back of my head that I feel like this could be where Drew goes full heel. And does that lead to Damian Priest picking the bones and walking out of Crown Jewel as the world champ? I think it's at least in the non-zero chance, realm of things. So throwing that out there, I think Seth wins this match, though. I'm just not convinced he totally leaves Saudi with the belt. But I think Seth wins the match.
Yeah, Rollins is my pick as well. I would love to see Drew McIntyre get the win here. And I'll say this along with Cody and Damian Priest are the two matches in ring wise that I'm most looking forward to. I think they're both have the ability to steal the show on a really good card overall. But I think this and Cody and Damian are the top two for me. With all of the story being told, for Drew to not win the title here, something has to happen afterwards if that's where we find ourselves. Another way to continue that story would be Drew does overcome all of the history, and he does unseat Seth, but then Damian Priest cashes in on him, so in his moment of glory, it's still overshadowed. And then you could easily then push Drew McIntyre, with not being a heel turn, into a feud with Judgment Day.
And something like that would make a lot of sense if, they've been talking a lot about Seth Rollins' back. And the fact that his singles match on Raw this week was his first singles match since like July or August. Singles match on Raw. He's had singles matches on premium live events. So clearly there's something going on with his back. So if he needs any time off, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I just don't know that that's what they do. So Seth, I think Seth is the safer of the picks, but again, like you also, I would not be surprised if there is a cash in or if there's something different that happens and whoever walks out with the world heavyweight title not being Seth Rollins. If we come back next week and we go, your new world heavyweight champion is, and it's not Seth Rollins, I'll be interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, you get the first pick on what we expect to be the main event, the Universal title match, Roman Reigns versus LA Knight. Yeah.
So again, Roman is going to get the win here, even if he's not going to be on Survivor Series, which is really weird to me. Like, you would think that for someone like him, if you're not having him weekly or bi-weekly or every 3 weeks on SmackDown, you're definitely locking him in and building around him for the premium live events.
And especially one of the big 4 or 5, whatever you want to call them now.
Yeah. Again, having not watched SmackDown, I don't really know the whole story here. What I will say is what I have seen the video packages, it's completely Roman disregarding and dissing LA Knight. And I love that because that's going to give people the reason to be behind LA Knight. It continues to build his story and give him that motivation. I think this is going to be fun. I think the crowd is going to be really into it. Roman is a great big match wrestler. He's a great wrestler overall, but I think in the big matches like this, he can really bring his opponent up another level. So I think that's what happens here with LA Knight. And even if with him losing with my pick, it's not the end of the story for LA Knight.
Agreed. And I think one of the things that's going to be interesting to see as they move forward, first of all, Roman's my pick. I'm not crazy. So I think one of the things that's going to be interesting to see is the crowd is so behind LA Knight at this point. They really have gotten behind him. I won't say to the same level by any means, but almost like they did Daniel Bryan back in the day. I think it's going to be very interesting to see come Royal Rumble time. If that's still the case, I think the most likely scenario right now is Cody winning the Rumble again, and then Cody going on to face Roman at Mania and quote unquote finishing the story. If that's the case, I don't think you want LA Knight in the Rumble. Like, you're going to have to book him into something else, like they would have had to with Daniel Bryan a few years ago, because I think the crowd might crap all over Cody Rhodes, which is crazy to say because they love Cody too. But if LA Knight continues the ascent he's on, people are going to be falling over themselves wanting him to win the Rumble and go on to Mania and win the title. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea either. I think that could work, actually, if they want to go that route, if they really get behind it. You could do something with Cody, something else with Cody, and maybe Cody be the one who takes it off LA Knight, although I do think Cody beating Roman for the title, well, he should have last year. We've said that numerous times. Like, Cody should have won the match at last year's Mania. But you can't change that now. So you just have to move forward with what you got. And I think it's really cool that Knight's getting this spot. I think the crowd will be very into LA Knight, and I think it's going to be a really good match. So, but Roman's winning. Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Honestly, that'll probably be my 8 when we do confidence points here with our pick'ems in fantasy wrestling, because I don't see any chance of Knight winning the title.
Well, and going back to what we talked about with Logan Paul, if Logan Paul truly does win the United States title as we predict, but maybe he's not long for the WWE, an easy transition is Logan Paul drops the United States title to LA Knight.
Yep, and that would make a lot of sense, because then you would, in a lot of ways, you would elevate the U.S. title, because when Roman's not there, LA Knight could be your main face of SmackDown almost. Yep. The bloodline always will be, even when Roman's not there. I understand that, but and then you could go to, if you're going to continue to build LA Knight that way, LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, and the bloodline in that way, so that you keep him adjacent to Roman for something else down the road too with him, would make a lot of sense. I agree with you. If they could wait until after January 1st, so that my main one of my main competitors in Fantasy Wrestling League would not get that title win, that would be great. But sorry, Annette. But I don't foresee that, probably, as we've talked about. Logan might not be a long-term champ for the U.S. title, so we'll see. But that makes a lot of sense, Tom. So looking down the matches, we had one difference, which was the Io Sky Bianca Belair match. Neither of us feeling super strong about our pick in that match either direction. So either I will pull even with Tom headed into, let's see, the next. Oh, I closed it.
Full Gear.
Full Gear would be the next one in a couple of weeks. That's right. And then we have Survivor Series, we have Final Battle, we have Deadline, and we have World's End as well before the end of the year. I hadn't put World's End on there, and now I have. So we've still got plenty of picks to make moving forward here in this year. But either I will pull even or Tom will take a 2-match lead after Crown Jewel. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out on Saturday. If you're watching Crown Jewel, enjoy it. If you're not, and there are lots of reasons people don't. I know with the Saudi shows especially, there are, kind of political and moral reasons that some people don't watch those, and that makes sense. Then enjoy something else this weekend. I think GCW has a show this weekend, if I remember right. So at least one, maybe 2.
There's 2. There's 2.
Yeah, I was thinking that. So they're down in the Midwest here, St. Louis, and not here. That's like 8 hours away from me. But so we've got a little bit of time left, Tom. Quick side note. They announced that SmackDown is coming to Lincoln, Nebraska, about an hour and a half away from me, in January. So I'm debating whether I buy a ticket or not. I'm not sure, partially because of the middle of January and weather could be a factor in whether I would be able to get to the show or not. So I'm thinking about SmackDown in January. The funny thing is, if AEW would have announced they're coming, I would have said, yeah, I'm buying a ticket, and I hope the weather's okay. SmackDown, I really would like to see, and that would be on the road to the Royal Rumble. So that's a fun time, kind of from the start of the year through WrestleMania is probably my favorite time of the wrestling year. every year, and then other times, obviously, if fun things pop up. But so that'd be a fun time. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll go to SmackDown. But what have you been enjoying in wrestling lately, Tom? I'm curious. I'll just throw a question at you.
Yeah, I'll answer that in one moment. So I have Raw coming actually here to where I live in 2 weeks from Monday. Yeah, 2 weeks from this coming Monday. So 3 weeks from this past Monday. And I don't have a ticket yet, and I may not go. But I really have enjoyed Raw. Like when I watch Raw mostly every week on demand, I tend to like it. And I think the get-in price is like $20. So why wouldn't I do that? I don't know. It's interesting. Whereas to your point, when AEW came here for Collision, I bought tickets in a pre-sale. So we'll see. And I've really enjoyed the WWE product overall. So what have I enjoyed? Oh, let's think about this. I mean, clearly I've enjoyed a lot because I've been watching it. I will say this. I intently watched Raw this week, and I intently watched Night 2 of Halloween Havoc without a lot of distraction. I took a couple of days off of work just to kind of recharge my batteries. And in that, I was watching the wrestling for the week, partly because I'm scoring the fantasy wrestling league this week. So it was part and parcel to what I was wanting to do either way. The build for Full Gear has been getting interesting to me. Again, I think you're familiar with what happens on Dynamite. You know the results, yes?
Yeah, basically. There might be something I don't, but I think I've got the main stuff known.
Yeah, so again, we had a Ring of Honor title match on Dynamite again. Hello, why? And you had Hangman and the Bucks lose the titles back to the Embassy, which is fine. But the idea behind that is it furthers the story between Hangman and Swerve more than anything else. And I think something is coming up with the Young Bucks. I think actually the Young Bucks are going to join the Don Callis family. Based on what I think I observe on, and then that's going to bring the Bucks and Omega as opposites, which is going to be really interesting because I feel like they've been copacetic all year, but this is going to draw, and it's going to be Jericho that draws the wedge between them. So then eventually we may get the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know that I answered your question directly, but those are the things that are like, I'm keeping my eye on. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of AEW lately. It's the show that both Dynamite and Collision. I don't catch Rampage most weeks. I still would like to go back and catch Santana and Ortiz from last week on Rampage. For whatever reason, that story interests me. Maybe because there is some real life beef behind the on-screen beef. But I haven't done that. MJF and Omega last week was awesome. And I know there was some online chatter about, they wasted it, with only 3 days of build, which was a little bit more than that. It's about a week and a half of build because there was, the 13 days bitch comment, and there was a little bit more build than that. But I realized it wasn't built up, like a pay-per-view main event. And I saw some things about, throwing it away on Collision because Collision doesn't get quite the ratings because it's on Saturday night and all of that. But I also think they did it to kind of try to pop a rating a little bit and see if they could boost that. I mean, that makes sense. And the match delivered. I mean, complain about where it was put or how it was booked or whatever, but like in ring, bell to bell, watch that match and tell me those aren't two of the absolute best going in the world today. And Kenny Omega, I know after the match, after the cameras weren't rolling or weren't live anymore, excuse me, said that he doesn't have the conditioning he once did, and he doesn't think he's the best bout machine ever again, like he used to be. Okay, you can say that, Kenny, but when it comes down to it, the big matches he's had, like, he's still delivering. And maybe he feels like he can't do it as often maybe as he once did, and that's fine. I understand that. But dude's delivering when he gets the opportunity in big one-on-one matches. So I don't think if he's feeling bad about himself, he shouldn't, because that was awesome. And anybody who doesn't realize at this point that MJF is not just a talker and can actually go in the ring, just hasn't been paying attention. And MJF is still like 24, 25, something like that. I mean, guy's young, I think, still, isn't he? Maybe I'm wrong on his.
No, I think you're right. And to that point, I'm going to say the evolution of MJF. I'm going to just timestamp it with 6 months. It may be more, maybe a little bit less. But if you look at the last 6 months of MJF, he's completely evolved and grown as a character beyond what we knew of him and saw from him. So I really appreciate that. And again, maybe it's just the easy shift from true heel to baby face with an edge, something to that effect. I don't know. I really enjoyed that quite a bit.
He's 27. I just looked it up, but still, that's still young. I mean, you look at AJ Styles is well into his 40s, and other guys who are. I mean, so you're talking 15 plus years, potentially more, in this guy's career. It's just crazy, and to think where he'll end up at some point. They really downplayed the whole bidding war of 2024. So I think MJF's already re-signed with AEW, and I don't see any chance of him leaving in the next, in 2024 if his contract is really up. Now, I guess I never would have thought that Cody Rhodes would have left AEW either, so anything's possible. But Tony Khan would be. I'm sure Tony Khan will do whatever he needs to keep MJF in the fold, because that is a WrestleMania main eventer you'd be letting walk away. Which, again, I know Cody was, but MJF could be bigger than Cody easily.
Well, and there's something there. I mean, again, I'm sure you saw the American Nightmare documentary on Peacock that WWE put out. There's something happened between Cody and some person in AEW that has not yet ever come out, and it may never come out. He speaks to it and says, that's what I'm going to say on the matter. So clearly, whatever that was enough for Cody to go, despite the fact that I was one of the people who helped build this company with my name and my cachet. I'm going to walk away. And again, by nature, he was an original WWE talent, and his dad was Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes precedes all of AEW and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think his comment that he's always been a WWE guy, he just had to go do some other things, and then, always intended to come back. I don't know if while he was starting AEW, he was thinking, yeah, someday I'm going back to WWE, but I understand the thought in that. And, but yeah, so anyways, I'm loving the MJF thing. I'm liking, I complained a couple of weeks back here that we had the initial debut of the Devil and his cohorts. We haven't seen the cohorts as much or at all, but the Devil is at least showing up at different times. So I like that tease. I like those kinds of stories. The reveal can always be a little touchy. It's got to be a good reveal. I kind of feel like Full Gear is probably that reveal, but it depends, because I still think it's Adam Cole under that, or will be revealed to be Adam Cole. It may not be Adam Cole standing there, right now. But I still think it's going to be Adam Cole. So maybe it doesn't happen at Full Gear. It depends on, he had his ankle surgery, legitimately had it, as well as in storyline. They're letting us know that he had it. So it kind of depends on what that surgery really was. They certainly could be playing up that it's worse than it was, to keep you off the track of it being Adam Cole. But I guess I'll be very surprised if it's anyone else revealed under that mask than Adam Cole. And I felt that since day one. I didn't buy the ankle injury at first. He has had surgery. I now believe, yes, he was hurt. Again, maybe I'm just too jaded from watching wrestling, but perhaps it's not quite as bad as they're playing it up to be. We've seen that before in wrestling many, many times. So we'll see. And I expect it to be the Kingdom and Roddy and maybe, I don't know who that fourth would be, except perhaps Kyle O'Reilly, if he's able. I mean, Kyle had neck fusion surgery, so I have no idea if he will return or even wants to return to the ring. But Kyle would make a lot of sense if he's able and wants to be back in that faction, I guess, for lack of a better word. And if it leads to Roddy stopping the yelling of Adam all the time, it's been funny, but it's starting to wear thin on me.
Yes.
So I'll be okay if we can get them to being, a little more serious, I guess, than just the haha. But no, I've enjoyed that. Ric Flair and AEW. Who had that on their bingo card for 2023? All I know is I don't want Rick in the ring, and he says he doesn't think he's going to wrestle in AEW. Let's take that from I don't think I'm going to I'm not. Like and Tony Khan saying, yeah, no, we're not putting him in the ring. Let's not do that. Please don't have Ric Flair be Sting's retirement opponent at Revolution. Like, don't do that. That was my first thought when he came out was, oh gosh, they're not going to do that, are they? And I don't think they will. I think it'll. Who do you think Sting will wrestle in his final match? Do you have any thoughts?
Darby.
That's where I'm leaning. Yep, that makes the most sense. In a respect, student versus teacher. I don't think it's Darby turning on Sting or Sting turning on Darby. Maybe there's a little bit of tension that builds between them, and then Sting's. I could see it kind of being the Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair story almost a little bit, in where like a little bit of a twist or I don't know, twist or whatever on it. But where Sting says, Darby, I want you to be my last match. And Darby's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to do that to you in your last match. And then, those little kinds of comments where like Flair wanted to wrestle Shawn at Mania. And Shawn's like, I don't want to be the one to retire you, Rick. And then Rick being like, wait, so you're saying you're going to beat me? I think there could be some of that to lead to that. And I think Darby makes the most sense. I saw a rumor yesterday that somebody was saying it could be Adam Copeland. And I'm like, I mean, that's a match that I think you could do down the road here on the road to the retirement. But Sting really hasn't. Has Sting had any singles matches in AEW? I don't think he has.
I don't think so either. It's nothing's jumping to mind right off the bat. So
right. So, and I think it'll be interesting to see if it's a singles match for his retirement match. It could be, a multi-person tag thing. I hope it's a singles. I think that would be the right way to send him out if he's willing to do that and if he feels he can. And I think from what we've seen of Sting, I mean, I know the man's 64 years old or whatever it is, but I think he could do a singles match. It doesn't have to be a 35-minute, or a 45-minute draw with Ric Flair, from Clash of Champions 1. But a good 10, 15 minute, minute-ish thing. I think he could do a singles match. So yeah, I think it'll be Darby. I agree with you. The Full Gear build has been solid. I have a trivia booking that night, so I won't watch the show live, and I'm not sure if I'll catch it. I'm kind of bummed about that, to be perfectly honest, because it looks like it's going to be a pretty good show. I think Jay White and MJF are going to tear it up. I think that's going to be, and I think that build has been really. You want to see Jay White get his. I think they've done a great job of making him a heel that you just want to see him get his clock cleaned, and that's what it should be when you're building a heel. So, although man, where do you land on Juice Robinson? I'm just curious, Tom.
When he was in New Japan, I was in favor of him. I haven't been a fan of him in AEW.
Okay, yeah, I know he's supposed to be grating and annoying, so maybe he's just doing his job really well. But every time he grabs a mic, I'm like, oh, we got to do that again. Yeah. And what was I was going to say? One of the Guns. I think they've done a nice job ascending with Bullet Club Gold. So yeah, I've enjoyed AEW. I have not, like I said, haven't seen a lot of WWE, just timing wise. This is a little. Well, it's been pretty busy at my real job, but that my real job doesn't dictate my wrestling watching all that much because my real job is primarily, kind of a daytime 8 to 5 sort of thing. It's my my secondary, my business, my trivia business, and this is like crazy busy time of the year, starting now with holiday parties and things for that. So there's going to be an awful lot of stuff that I don't get to see live moving forward. I have the Fight Plus subscription. And I couldn't tell you the last time I sat down and watched a full GCW show, which is a little bit of a bummer. I don't know if you follow Wrestling Revolver, Tom. Let me just take a real left turn here. Sami Callihan's promotion that I went and saw in Des Moines, and I will be back to see them again at some point. The wrestling, they're debuting out in California next week, I want to say. It's coming up here in November. Oh, no, I think it might be the same weekend as Full Gear, which would make sense, piggybacking off of that show. The lineup for that show, and it's on Fight Plus. I don't remember if you have Fight Plus
I did, but I canceled it. This show actually makes me wish I had it again. Again, to your point, I was paying a monthly subscription and not taking advantage of it, and I just finally said, you know what, it's time to just call a spade a spade. But yes, to your point, I mean, number one, the idea that Ronda Rousey is booked for that and is actually wrestling, that's huge, right? And then that match was announced, I think, overnight last night. Do you know that match?
Yeah, Ronda and Marina against Athena and Billy.
Yeah, that's just sick. That's a sick tag match.
Yeah, and Swerve's on that show, and Mike Bailey's on that show. I'm forgetting a number of really big names that they've. Jake something I saw got announced for. Not that he's at the level of Swerve and Ronda, but do you think there's any chance with Ronda working that show, and she just worked a Lucha Vavoom show as well, or appeared at it? Do you think there's any chance we see her in AEW at some point?
Great question. The idea is why would she stop being a part of WWE and then transition to AEW? It felt like to me like leaving WWE was a way to go, okay, now I'm going to be a mom full time, and we knew that it probably was never say never, right? We knew we'd see her again sometime, someplace, somewhere. This is actually relatively early when you think about the fact that she sunset everything at SummerSlam. We're talking, this is like less than 3 months, or just about 3 months.
Yeah, I tend to think she's doing this just, she's having fun. She's doing what she wants kind of thing, where AEW would be more of a contract. I mean, your TV, you've got all of that kind of stuff. So I tend to think probably not, but like you said, never say never. I mean, I'm just scrolling through Revolver's Twitter here. Mike Bailey versus Brian Keith is on that show. I've enjoyed Brian Keith when I've seen him. I just haven't seen a ton of him. So that should be really fun. Yeah, that show just looks stacked. So kudos to Sami Callihan and however he's pulling that one off. That's been a really fun company to follow lately for me. So, well, we've rambled coherently, incoherently. I'm not sure which one for the last little bit. Tom, anything else you want to touch on this morning before we bid adieu, as Kenny Omega would say?
No, everything's good. Excited to catch Crown Jewel whenever I do, and to come back next week and chat about that and more.
Absolutely. And next week will be kind of we'll talk Crown Jewel and who knows what else. In 2 weeks, we'll have our full gear picks. So next week, tune in to see what we will cover next week on Two Spot Monkeys. But everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy Crown Jewel or GCW or whatever you might watch this weekend, football, whatever it is. And we'll be back with you next week here on Two Spot Monkeys Live.